This video will provide an overview of how the schedule operates with respect to billable events and the importance of its integration with the notes and billing modules. To learn the mechanics of inputting the schedule, please see the next video in the scheduling series. Let's take a look at the schedule. When scheduling events, you will set them as either billable or non-billable. If the event is specific to a client and a service, it will be billable. If the event has nothing to do with a client, such as staff trainings, administrative time, or even unavailable staff time, it will be considered non-billable. When scheduling billable events, you will always tie the event to a client and one of their respective authorized services. By linking the schedule to the authorized service, you are gaining several benefits. First, you can only enter schedules that are within the authorized date ranges. Once an authorization ends, you will not be able to enter scheduled items past the end date until a new authorization is entered. Secondly, every time you schedule a billable event, you are encumbering units from the authorization. The units are pulled from their respective parameters, such as weekly, monthly, or total authorized, based on how they were entered at the authorization screen. This gives you control with respect to how the units are provided over the course of the authorization period. For these reasons, the schedule is a great tool for managing your service delivery, as you are ensured that when the service is provided, you have coverage from the authorization and do not overbill. To illustrate how the system handles the units on the schedule, let's take a look at a critical report that manages the unit count. This report can be found in the Reports dashlet on your dashboard. It's called Client Services. The in-process units will show all units that are tied up in the system but have not yet been billed. When scheduling your services, the units are considered in process. This is implying that the units are already spoken for and need to be factored into what is remaining. The goal is that the units move from in process to billed in order to give you an accurate remaining unit count. When all of the units authorized have been consumed and there are no more remaining, there is a rule that you can enforce in the system that will provide warning messages for exceeding the authorized amount. This rule is found under Securities, in the Validations tab. Notice that the rule can be enforced based on your roles, meaning that the rule can be turned on for some users and off for others. When the rule is enforced, a pop-up message will notify the scheduler that there are no more units left against the authorization to schedule. The Allow Override checkbox dictates whether that user can override the message and continue scheduling, or if they cannot override, preventing them from getting the schedule entered. Now that you understand how the units are accounted for when using the schedule, it is important to review the best practices for managing the schedules. There is one of 4 things that should happen after the event is scheduled, and this maintenance is critical so that units are properly allocated. The first option is that the events can be linked to a note. This is the only way that the units will stay intact for that date of service. Otherwise, the units used to schedule the event would remain in the in-process count and would never move to billed, since you will more than likely be billing from the note. The disconnect of the units would translate to an inaccurate count of what is remaining. Plus, you are at risk for receiving invalid warning messages for exceeding units. You can create the note either from the schedule or from the Notes desktop. Creating the note from the schedule is a great head start, since the scheduled data populates into the note. You have control over whether or not the scheduled info can be changed once pulled into the note. This is the highest point of control the system offers to ensure that your service delivery stays within the authorized unit amount. Not allowing a change in time on the note would mean that your billing will always equal what is scheduled. Then you should never be in an overbill situation. This setting is under Configure, Edit Company Settings, and Lock Note on Scheduling. A second option is that your scheduled events can be imported into billing as a means for generating your billing. You can either import schedules or notes to our billing module. If you are using notes, then the proper flow will be to create your schedule, link it to a note, and then import the note to billing. If you are not using notes and would prefer to bill from scheduled events, then the events are acutely managed to reflect what was actually provided so that the billing is properly submitted. When importing into billing, the units will move from in process to billed to provide your remaining count. Thirdly, if the scheduled event did not occur, then you will want to release the units encumbered so that they can be repurposed for another day. This can be done by reclassifying the billable service. This is usually beneficial for tracking purposes so that no-shows or cancellations can be reported upon. Service codes that reflect your reason codes would need to be set up and attached to the client. The billable code could then be changed to one of the reason codes, which would free up the units. And lastly, if none of the above options are relevant, then you would delete the service off the schedule if it did not occur as another means for freeing up the units.